Hi everyone, welcome to Ladies of Lavender. Thank you so much for joining me today. So for today's video, we are going to talk about the main differences between pantyliners and pads. Now, I know that a lot of y'all have been struggling to understand the primary use of a pantyliner and why you sometimes might want to use a pantyliner and sometimes when you might want to use a pad. And when we do a video like this, I don't want y'all to think that you have to go the extra mile to buy pantyliners and pads. I know that some people have been going through a tough financial situation right now, so do not feel like you have to buy these two individual products because they are very similar. The only difference is why they're used. So if you're in a situation where you can only really afford buying the necessities, I would always recommend going with a pad, and I'll explain why. Alright, so let's get into the video. First things first, when you start your period, you're usually going to use one of like 3 products, right? So like a pad, and this could be an ultra thin pad, a maxi pad, or like a cloth pad. Second, you could use like a tampon, regardless of what size, like a tampon, and then you might use a menstrual cup, something like that. You use something. And when we start our periods, the flow is usually at its highest point towards the beginning of your period. And then it slowly starts to go down with how much blood your body is putting out. That being said, at the beginning of your period, what would you trust more to make sure that you don't leak? A maxi pad or a piece of toilet paper? Some of you may have a really light flow, so you aren't even able to really use tampons because you don't produce enough menstrual blood to be able to wear a tampon safely. Because if you guys watched our TSS video, and if you haven't, please go watch it, I'll link it down below. Wearing tampons isn't dangerous, but you need to do it safely. So if you wear a tampon that is too big for you, meaning that you don't produce enough blood for it to absorb it completely, you run the risk of developing TSS. So for those of you who do not bleed a large amount on your period throughout the entire length of your period, a tampon probably isn't the best option for you, right? And then, some of you might go to menstrual cups and maybe that doesn't work. I know that a lot of y'all have been too scared to use menstrual cups, and that's completely okay. You need to do what's right for your body and your flow. And in some of y'all, the last resort is pads. So with a pad, a lot of people use them at the beginning of their periods because you produce a lot of blood. But for those of y'all who don't produce a lot of blood, what are you supposed to use? I like to compare a pad to a diaper sometimes just because of how bulky they can be. With a pantyliner, and I have one right here, they're really thin. They don't have the capacity to be able to absorb a lot of blood. So if you're someone who has a heavier flow or a normal flow, using a pantyliner on the first 3 days of your period is a risk, just because the pantyliner may not be able to keep up with the amount of blood that your body's putting out. So that being said, like I was saying earlier, those of you who have a really light flow in general should consider using a pantyliner. So with pads, if you've noticed, they're thicker, yes, but there's stuff that coats the inside of a pad. It's kind of like a diaper. If you've ever cut open a diaper to do that science fair project where you put the inside of like the diaper into some water and it forms like a type of gelatin, that's kind of what is inside a pad, but not as much. With a pad, there's a secret inside layer that helps prevent blood from being able to go through it, which is why when you use a pad, you usually don't have to worry about it going through the pad because there's that layer that stops it. With the pantyliner, it's, just this layer. There's no room for there to be any kind of filling to stop the blood. So those are the most important differences between the two. Pads are capable of absorbing much more blood. Panty liners, much less blood. So when you are on your period, I would recommend switching to panty liners when you stop producing enough blood to fill a tampon or to comfortably wear a pad. Panty liners are there for backups, they're there for comfort. You know, they're not a useful period product. They're kind of like a at the end of your cycle product, or for those of you who have a really light flow and don't have to worry about leaking, it's great for you. And it's also great for vaginal discharge. We did a panty liners video a long time ago, but vaginal discharge is this sticky substance that a lot of menstruating people will have throughout their life. It's not period blood and it's not urine, it's not anything like that. It's basically a healthy discharge and it's normal that comes out of the body. It's basically like a mixture of like sweat and normal like chemicals and things that are cleaned out of the human vagina over the course of like a week or a day or something. So it kind of does the same thing as a period, where it cleans out the vagina and the uterus lining, but it doesn't shed the uterus lining, if that makes sense. So that being said, a lot of people like to use panty liners like this to catch the vaginal discharge. I would really recommend that, especially if you experience a lot of vaginal discharge. It could really help make sure that you are comfortable. And then I also know that a lot of people like to use panty liners if you're experiencing menopause, so you don't have a normal period, you experience something a little bit different. I would recommend a panty liner for that. And really, I feel like anyone who is a menstruator might like to use panty liners. They're very helpful. They really kind of just do everything in between. Like, the big period products are pads and tampons, and they do most of the work on your period. But having something like a panty liner that just can fill in and make you feel more secure, or just help out whenever you need a tiny boost, that's what it's like perfect for. So I hope that straightened a few things out and maybe helped some of y'all. I would definitely recommend, you know, going to the store and looking to see the different products, different types of panty liners. You can get panty liners that are super long, you can get them that are really short, depending on your body type and what you prefer. They also have, you know, panty liners for different types of underwear. And that goes for the same with pads. They have a variety of different sizes, different absorbencies, different lengths. So that's really awesome about pads and panty liners, is that they're very customizable, but they are very different. So yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you'll have a good summer. We may not be able to answer a lot of questions in the comments, but I know that I trust you all to help each other out and give advice when it's needed. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys.